You know what Grandy said on the internet earlier?
I missed it.
I was kicking around, and then I'm like, oh, look, there's Grandy. And it was Grandy and E-Dog, and they're talking. And basically, and Grandy, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you hop on here and tell me if I'm expressing your opinion in any sort of an incorrect way. But you were basically like Trey Lance has got to get his shot. He's got to get his shot. Is that about right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, no, and does it have to? And you mean it has to be here?
It has to be this season.
It has to be this year.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that look like? Well, like how?
A stretch of 3 or 4 regular season games.
Would you if Brock's healthy and there's no reason for him to not be out there, you would still give Trey the 3 or 4 consecutive games so you could see what he's got?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the Niners are failing if they don't, because I think if they don't give him the shot this year, he's not going to ever have the chance here, and you're never going to know what you have.
This is very, very interesting to me. This is interesting to me. Do y'all feel that way? 888-957-9570. Does Trey Lance have to get his shot this year in a 49er uniform? And would you do that even at the expense of a healthy Brock Purdy getting to play in those games and take whatever you get out of him? Win, loss, draw, anything in between. Do you have to get a look at Trey Lance this year? We'll take some calls on that. 888-957-9570. What do you think?
No is the answer.
Yeah.
Because if you... I like what Mark said, Mark Grandy, in terms of on the surface. On the surface of, you got to get a look at Trey Lance for 4 games to see what you have. But if you don't get a look at Trey Lance for 4 games to see what you have, that tells you that they've already seen what they have and they don't like what they have. And also the other part of it is you don't have the luxury in the NFL to squander away games at the expense of seeing what you have. So even if you think that Trey Lance is QB 1B, if he's really, really close to Brock Purdy, but Brock was undefeated and Brock's the guy and we got to give Brock the chance, even if you think that Trey Lance is really nipping at Brock Purdy's heels and Brock Purdy is QB1, you don't give up any snaps, any reps to QB2 in any way, shape, or form. You don't do that in the NFL. You do that in college. You do it in high school for sure. You don't do that in the pros. So if you think that Brock Purdy is good enough to be QB1, if you think that Trey Lance is good enough to be QB1, then he can beat out Brock Purdy and be the guy. But I think they already know what they know about Trey Lance in terms of whether or not he can be the guy.
I know, Grandy, I know where you're coming from. I get where he's coming from, which is that the facts of how we got here are what they are. It doesn't matter if he should have been drafted 3rd overall. He was. It doesn't matter if the 49ers traded up or if they were already at number 3. The bottom line is they did. They traded up 2 future firsts in order to get there and draft him number 3 overall. And it's unprecedented, the idea that a number 3 overall pick would never even essentially get a fair shake or a real look. But I also, and for me, this is just what trained me this in my life, is parenting, which is that things rarely go the way for you to plan them to go. It just don't. And the quicker you can learn how to accept that, the better off things are going to be, and the better off things are going to go. Tell you a quick story. Remember a couple weeks ago, right? Lovely Christy and I go to Yosemite. Remember we missed a couple shows, right? So the week before we were going to go, we get the news. Yosemite's closed. We're closing the park.
Yeah.
Because the temperature is going to be 89 degrees for 3 days, and the snow's all going to melt, and it's going to flood the park, and that's it. So that's it. The park's closed. Now, the way my mom's brain works, so I guess that's the end of that trip. And I guess you'll be staying home, and I guess we don't need to come be with the kids anymore. And I was like, well, Mom, let's see what happens. I don't know if the weather is actually going to be like that, or maybe the park will reopen at a certain point before we get there. Or
Pivot, don't panic, Ellen.
I mean, we're just like let's see what happens, right? And I confirm that we get a refund, and all that stupid stuff. But the point is actually that heat snap that was coming never came, and the park never did close, and everything was fine. However, even if it had, I told my parents, I go, you don't need to worry about it. Because you're coming either way, because if we don't go there, we're going to go somewhere else. In other words, like...
We're out of here.
Right. Yes.
In other words...
We are getting the heck out of Dodge.
In other words, the kids are yours.
But also...
We're out.
We've planned for 6 months to go to Yosemite. Trey Lance. But if something else made sense in that moment, we're going there. We're going to go do that, and we're just going to follow that because that's what's happening in this moment. So for me today, it doesn't matter where they were drafted. It doesn't matter what your plan was. What's here right now is Brock Purdy and an 8-0 record, and I just find it difficult to wrap my head around the other side of this. We got to see Trey. Well, no. My response is, you're not allowed to bench Brock unless you have a reason.
Right, and the only reason would be Trey's better. That's the only reason why you would bench Brock.
Agreed.
It has nothing to do with you don't lose your job to injury because Trey Lance lost his job to injury to a guy who got hurt, who then lost his job to injury. Brock Purdy then started, and he got hurt, and he lost his job to injury to Josh Johnson, who got hurt, and he lost his job to injury to the guy who was already injured who came back and couldn't throw. And now here we are entering a new season, and it's a crapshoot. And the QB1 job goes to the best quarterback on your roster. End of story. Because Kyle Shanahan loves Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen. He loves these men, I'm sure, as much as a coach can love his players. But what he loves more than the individuals is winning football games. So when it comes time for the first game of the year, he's going to play the best quarterback who's available. And he knows that it's not good that he traded 3 first-round picks to move up and get a first-round pick for a quarterback who may never work out with the organization. That's a bad thing. But you know what that is, Mark? That's a press conference. That is a moment in a press conference where at some point he comes out and has to admit the mistake, explain the mistake, he'll field questions, it'll be uncomfortable, and he'll move on. And it's easier to move on if you go 12-5 and you make it to the NFC Championship game. If you go 5-12 and Brock stinks and Darnold gets hurt, but you already traded Trey Lance because you gave up on him, and Brandon Allen starts 5 games for you, and you're a 5-12 team, and you're a washout, then that press conference is more uncomfortable than the press conference right now. If they trade him right now, on this day, May 26th, Trey Lance is dealt for a future 4th and a conditional 3rd.
Then they're crazy.
No, you're right. But the press conference right now is better than the press conference if they go 4-13 and Trey Lance is QB3 and he never gets a chance.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, I don't think Trey Lance gets traded while Brock Purdy is still hurt. But if Brock gets the point where, he's healthy and he looks like Brock, I don't know. Like, where's merit involved in all this? Where do we get some merit? Like, Brock Purdy earned this.
Oh, I thought you were talking about that 4-string quarterback for the Raiders again.
No, his name was Thayer.
Oh, Thayer,
Thayer Mumford and Sons. Yeah.
Thayer. You threw me with that merit.
Right?
Still the right tackle.
Is that, Grandy, isn't what you're saying unfair to Brock Purdy? It's not his fault that the 49ers drafted people where they drafted them.
No, that's fair. I think where I'm coming from is less about Trey Lance deserves a chance. Trey himself deserves a chance. It's more so the Niners need to be sure that they don't have anything with Trey Lance. And I'm not confident that they can determine that without consistent action in regular season games. How terrible would it be if he never gets a legitimate chance with this organization, goes wherever else, and turns out to be a quality quarterback?
To be better than Brock. It doesn't even matter if he's quality. If he's better than Brock, that's a disaster. That would be a disaster. I guess their job right now is to make sure that that's not the case. And it seems like they firmly believe that.
They better be right, is all I'm saying.
What if
Right.
the opposite happens with Sam Darnold?
I thought that was off mic. It went from off mic to on mic.
So what's the opposite with Sam?
He got a minimal chance elsewhere. You could argue that, they moved off him pretty quickly in New York, and Carolina never really was going to get a chance. And just because of the awful organizations he played for, now that he's in a good one that can build up everything around the quarterback, now maybe he is a good quarterback.
So that would be bad for who?
I don't think it wouldn't be bad for anybody. I'm just saying, is that possible?
It'd be bad for the Jets, and it'd be bad for the Panthers if there was a self-realization of, we're not good at this. We're not good at developing quarterbacks. We haven't put the right things around them. You know what I mean? Like, Zach Wilson has come in since then and been terrible. C.J. Stroud, right? Or no? Who went where with the QBs? C.J. went where and Bryce went where? To Carolina?
Bryce is in Carolina.
Bryce is in Carolina.
Houston.
In Houston. Thank you. That's what I thought. Yeah. And then what if Bryce does not develop? And now that's Carolina and the Jets going, we got a systemic problem here.
Yeah.
With regard to the whole thing.
But you don't do systemic problems here in San Francisco because you have the QB whisperer. So to Lucas's point, if Darnold comes in and he shows that he's better than Trey Lance, and maybe it is a redemption situation for Sam Darnold, what does that say about Trey Lance if then he is ceremoniously traded elsewhere? And if Trey Lance goes elsewhere and he doesn't play well, that's also a disaster for Kyle Shanahan in terms of, what could you have done with a couple more first-round picks? Would those picks have been enough to get you over the hump?
Which will become a thing if Brock Purdy is not taking the Niners to the end.
Right.
And I don't even mean winning a Super Bowl, but you better be in Final Fours, Final Eights at least. Like, you better be contending, or else, yeah. That's
even if it is just Final Fours, you can still then ask, what if you would have had a better tight end to not have Brock Purdy get hurt last year? What if you would have used that first-round pick?
I just mean
you would have had.
It wouldn't be enough for the team to be like, you're fired.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. That's what I would say about it. I mean, it's the magic elixir. This could end up, and this is what I was saying yesterday in that video that we and Odyssey sent out all over the place about me saying that this could turn into being the worst draft pick the 49ers have ever made. What I meant by that is that there's a scenario here where the 49ers just wasted all of this. 3 years of first-round capital on a player they're never going to use. And I still think largely, while you could criticize them for that, largely people will not care if Brock Purdy is on the team playing well and the Niners are competing for championships. They won't care. It's like, you missed on the pick, but it doesn't matter.
Right. They'll care less. They'll care a lot less. There's going to still be that one portion of the audience who fire Kyle right now and, this is a fireable offense and how could you? Unless they win the Super Bowl and the quest for 6 goes on. But I agree with you in terms of if they do what they did last year, Brock was 5-0 as a starter, then 2-1 in the postseason. And if he plays like that and wins like that, all the noise will be quieted.
888-957-9570. Let's go to James in Oakland on Willard and Dibs. Hi, James. What are you doing?
Yo, what's up, Willard and Dibs?
What's cooking?
Honestly, I just gotta say thank you for your show. During the graduation, I was just listening to it. I didn't want to listen to the boring principal speech, so I just thank you for that. And you guys always motivate me into wanting to make my own podcast. So, yeah.
James, I love it.
What high school, James?
Yeah, can we understand this? You had AirPods in during your graduation ceremony listening to us instead?
Yeah.
Man, James.
Is that Skyline, James, or Oakland Tech?
You get a diploma.
He doesn't want to say.
No, James.
All right, James. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say either.
He's a man of few words.
Yeah. What else, James?
Even when I grabbed the paper, I was still listening to it. It's the best show.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Thank you again, James. Is that all, or did you did you want to say something about the sports?
Oh yeah. The Niners. Yeah, the Niners. They have the most potential in the NFL right now, but they just need to get. And they're still in that quarterback position, which is kind of stupid. They should have been out of it. but they have 3 great quarterbacks right now, and if they all 3 get hurt, then it's just stupid because they have 3 solid quarterbacks and they can make it to the Super Bowl easily with Shanahan.
Maybe we're tossing the word great around a little bit with the 49ers have 3 great quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't even know if they've got 3 good ones, but thank you, James. Keep your AirPods in, okay?
All right. Have a good day.
Okay,
Thanks,
you too,
James.
James. There
Yeah.
it goes. James in Oakland. I believe the children are our future.
Teach them well and let them tune
lead
us
the
out. Let them wear their AirPods. Graduation. It's
Sensation.
Well, those things, cha-ching. Those things can take a while. And I would guess that it was a Skyline grad. Both my kids went to Skyline.
That was terribly rude what you just did.
He graduated. He doesn't have to listen to those bozos.
What was
right.
terribly rude?
Yeah. Well, just paint with a broad brush, deciding based on the call that it was a Skyline kid.
James from Oakland.
Yeah.
And Oakland has 6 public schools.
Correct.
And Castlemont, the smallest. McClymon's also very small. Fremont High School of Oakland would be the 3rd smallest. Oakland High, shout out O-High, and the Wildcats. I would bet that he was either Skyline or Oakland Tech.
Based on?
Based on his ability to tune out. Those are the biggest schools in Oakland. You're not going to Castlemont and wearing your AirPods in a graduating class of about 28.
Maybe he's got long hair. No one would even know.
And it might have been a private school.
Yeah.
College prep. Head Royce, which runs you about 40 large, by the way, a year.
Well, some people got Buddy in this
Bishop
town.
O'Dowd. I didn't know if he was an O'Dowd kid. I don't think they've graduated yet.
Lucas, is it Ivan? Is that what you're trying to write over here?
It's Ivan.
Yeah.
Not Yvonne.
Okay, perfect. Ivan in Daly City. Hi, Ivan. What are you doing?
I am driving on the 280 heading home. There was a fire right near the 92.
All right, man. Get where you're going safely, okay?
You got it. So I just think that why would you sacrifice 3 or 4 games just to figure out what Trey is? If he was really good, he would be amazing in the preseason and beat out everyone in practice, right? So you got to win that job. Otherwise, you sit on the bench and you wait to take it over from the guy that gets hurt, just like what Tom Brady did, right? So that's what we should figure out.
Yeah, well, Ivan, A, I agree with you, but B, I will say there's a scenario here where this does get complicated, okay? Let's say Trey does, quote unquote, light it up, right? He worked with Patrick Mahomes' coach in the offseason. Maybe he comes back, and you start to see it right now, and you love everything he's doing out there. And Brock doesn't really get much of a preseason because, A, he's either still coming back from the injury, or even if he's back, they don't want to subject him to much. They don't want to put him out there for hits, which is what you usually do with your starting quarterback anyway. There's a way where Trey can make this difficult. He can make it difficult, but I also want to express how hard it's going to be for the 49ers organization to sit a healthy Brock Purdy in week 1. Like,
it's not happening.
I really feel like we are overestimating that possibility. People are acting like something has not been earned by somebody. Brock Purdy has earned that. He's earned it from the locker room. He's earned it through his stats. He's earned it through his record.
Well, you could have stopped at locker room to me, Mark, because that ultimately is the way this goes. Because Kyle Shanahan, one of the expressions in pro sports that we talk a lot about? A coach has lost the locker room. When a coach loses a locker room, it's not like the lost and found. It's not like your phone when you left it at that radio station down in San Diego so many years ago where you lost your phone and then you found your phone. When you lose a locker room, you don't often find a locker room. When you lose it, that's it. And the easiest way for a head coach to lose a locker room in pro football is by playing a quarterback that the team does not believe gives them the best chance to win. So you're asking 55 or 46, I guess it's now 47 grown men on game day to go out there and literally put their lives on the line to try to win a football game. And you're going to tell those grown men, those alphas, yeah, we're playing this guy because we traded 3 picks for him, and we want to see what we have. We know that Brock gives us a better chance to win, but darn it, guys, you could see my point here. We need to see what we have in Trey Lance.
Can't do it.
You lose your locker room.
Can't do it. I mean,
and I apologize to Mark Grandy for dunking all over your point the day after your birthday.
Yeah, I mean,
I hate Mark Grandy.
Yeah,
that's why I'm doing it.
Also true.
It's a pretty weak dunk.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's a finger roll. It's 2 points.
Come on, that's like a 5'6" white guy over here. If he can dunk it all, it's amazing.
5'7.5".
Sorry,
getting shorter. Me and Tim Kirkchin.
All right, so I was looking ahead.
He's 5'3". He's little.
He is little. Julian in San Bruno, what are you doing? How tall are you, Julian?
He's 6'1".
Oh, what's up, Wizard and Ad Libs? 5'10".
5'10".
Wizard and Ad Libs. That's really good.
Almost the national average. Go ahead, Julian.
Yes, sir. I'm kind of thinking about this whole situation in terms of Alex Smith and Kaepernick, and then also the first year of Jimmy and Jimmy being sat and Trey starting. And, like, to Dibs' point about losing the locker room, didn't Shanahan lose the locker room already when he put Trey in head?
So the answer, I stop you there, Julian, and then you can keep going. The answer is a resounding no. Kyle Shanahan firmly has this locker room. I wish I could express to you the way the players talk and feel about Kyle Shanahan. And I mean that publicly and privately. He is the dude there and is very, very well respected.
Right. No, and I wholeheartedly agree. So then it just comes down to Shanahan, right? If he sees that Trey is better, he's going to play him. And if he does play him, then we should respect that, right? If the locker room's going to respect that, then let it happen. Because honestly,
that's interesting.
I have a...
Yeah, no, go ahead, Julian.
My bad. I have a bad feeling that Purdy's going to hit a sophomore slump. I have a bad feeling that his elbow isn't going to carry him with the long ball.
I mean,
Trey,
yeah, he totally could. Julian, thanks. I like, sure, who knows what's going to happen in sports? Is the league going to have figured him out? And, is something health-wise going to come back to haunt him? All of these things are possible and on the table. But that's an interesting thought. Let's say we get to late August. Trey's had a great camp. Brock is still just kind of working his way back from injury, but healthy. And Kyle Shanahan decides Trey is better, and he starts him. Does the locker room just go, well, Kyle said so, so that's what we got to do?
Yes.
See, I don't think
yes.
so. No, they've all got private thoughts. Yes, Kyle's the dude, but by the same token, like, I think that athletes look at one another, and when there's achievement, just like any business, they're like, you need to reward that. There's only one thing week 1 this year, whether it's true or not, that people in that locker room feel like they know. They feel like they know they can win with Brock Purdy. They don't know anything
Brock
about
is coming back from injury, and if Brock goes through August and he still is trying to get himself comfortable and he still is recovering from surgery in some ways, and he's not the Brock that he was last December and last January, and Trey now has been healthy since March, and Trey's balling out. If Trey looks better in August than Brock Purdy does, it's not as tough a sell to the locker room. They're not going to say, but Brock was great last January. If Trey is really outplaying him, it's a different conversation.
I think it has to be a health thing. If everybody's healthy, he's earned it. He's earned it.
Yes, but what you laid out was if Brock is healthy and Trey is simply playing better than him.
I guess this is what I mean. If you pitch to the locker room, hey, Brock's not quite fully there yet with the arm, so Trey's going to start out the season. Okay, that's one thing. But I'm just talking about Trey wins the job. He wins the job because he had a better camp. Now that to me is much more dicey and controversial.
It just depends on who in that locker room is seeing the same thing as Kyle Shanahan. Because I don't think that Kyle Shanahan is going to come out and say, Trey Lance is going to be our starter and stuff. We like what Brock's done, and Sam Darnold's right there as well and stuff. And we're just going to go with Trey, and we feel like he gives us the best chance to win and stuff. If he comes out and says that and stuff, I think that there's going to be a prevailing notion of that in the locker room. It's not going to be Kyle's the only one who thinks that.
Yeah.
That'll be Greasy. That'll be any of the various Kubiaks. That'll be a feeling, I think, that pervades the locker room and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's got to thank you for as many and stuffs as you gave.
If I can. I'm trying.
I
try not to mail it in.
It would have to be really firm. It would have to be really clear. Like, it would have to be obvious to everybody there. They're like, oh, my gosh, Trey looks amazing and Brock looks horrible. It would have to be that.
You're right. No, you're right. I mean?
Yeah.
I'm with you.
It'd have to be intense.
No, I got you.
Okay.
No, I see it.
Appreciate you.
I'm with you.
And stuff.